Good evening, dear English Without Borders Network community. We are so happy to see people joining from different parts of the world, and it makes us really happy to extend our greetings to all of you. Welcome to English Without Borders Network. And today we are happy to host Armen Kassabian, who will talk about the communicative teaching approach in listening. And welcome, Armen, and greetings to English Without Borders to you as well. So let me briefly introduce our speaker today, English Without Borders. And once again, we can see that there are no borders between the teachers who are teaching English worldwide. And Mr. Kassabian has a master's in TESOL from Long Island University. He's from New York, United States, with over 12 years of experience in the field of teaching English to speakers of other languages and teacher training. He brings in renewed passion for learning and teaching to every class. He has trained teachers in Mauritius, Madagascar, Brazil, Martinique, and Uzbekistan. He's presently working with the English Speaking Nation program and TESOL International program in Tashkent, Uzbekistan. And with great pleasure, I am giving the floor over to Mr. Kassabian. Thank you very much. Dear audience, please use the chat box and also the comment box on Facebook to ask your questions to our speaker today. And after his presentation, we'll proceed to Q&A session to respond to your questions. Thank you very much. Stay with us and enjoy the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, I'm going to just share my screen and then I'm ready. I'm very happy for the introduction. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm happy to meet you all in person or digitally. So I'm actually going to share some strategies today that are not just mine, but that are from one of my mentors. I think all of us have a mentor or someone who's inspiring us and encouraging us. And that's what makes us teachers, right? We're learners all the time. So my mentor is Kevin McCauley, who's a Relo. So I'm going to start with this quick question to ask everyone, and then we'll go into the materials for our discussion today. And it's just, what kinds of listening activities do you use in your class? So I'm going to mute myself for a moment, and possibly as you write them in the chat box, we can hear them. We're happy to see you. We have, oh, hi, no, Pinar. Hello, Fernando, Minmin, and everyone else who's watching on Facebook. What kinds of listening activities, Mehdi, do you use? Great. Someone said listening to music. Anyone else? What do you use in your class? I could say I play different videos sometimes to show whatever the point is that I want to be teaching, and I ask certain questions. Nasiba's listening to podcasts. Navad is, I guess, having texts that are read out loud. Take another 5 seconds. Reports from Bet Bigum. So we all use listening in different ways. All right. And songs. So really good. It's kind of what we do all the time with listening. And Fernando said mostly to active listening, such as music, videos, sites, dialogue, sometimes. Pre, during, and post. Yeah, Natia, there's certain moments before we have our students listening to things, we have to prepare them for the words that may be coming, or tell them what to look for during, or ask them questions after. So that's just a beginning question. Here are some different reasons why we may have listening happen in the class. So I'll just start with this, and then I'll go through a couple of activities, and then by the end, hopefully you can choose one that you may want to experiment with in your class. And I'm happy for everyone who's joining us. So there's actually 8 here. The first one could be listening for enjoyment. It's really nice when we listen, just as everyone's writing songs a lot, we feel really good when we have music. Sometimes we may not have a song about our topic. We may listen for the main idea of whatever the text is about. We may listen for specific details. Mehdi is talking about listening for cartoons. Yes, we may listen for a sequence of events. So these are the different purposes for why we do listening activities in class. We may listen to show students how to use a specific vocabulary in context, also to share something about a culture, and to share opinions and attitudes, and finally for a specific kind of language. So maybe I want to go. Someone saying all the things they want to do and all places they want to go, and students are maybe writing it. So these are just some ideas around different purposes. And I guess this is my next question. What's the purpose of using listening activities in our class? I'd love for people to share any of their ideas in the chat box. Mehdi saying, my students and I like Hokey Pokey. That's a very fun song. Yeah, we remember songs well. I know everyone knows Simon Says as well, which is a very good listening activity. Kanara got it. One idea, listening for getting to understand something, comprehension. 20 seconds, feel free to write. Developing our listening skill. I know, like, I've been studying a bit of Russian, a bit of Uzbek here in Uzbekistan, and it's kind of hard. Sometimes the words seem really fast. So I know listening to things repeatedly is helpful. Improving our listening skills. Yeah, we all need to improve them. Getting inspiration. Yes, thank you, Nasiba. Dastagul, listening to learn new vocabulary. Yeah, definitely listening and hearing vocabulary in context helps us know it better. And Natya said to get used to the foreign language. Yeah, just the new sounds. I know, like, when we're children, we can hear all sounds, but as we get older, sometimes there's certain sounds that are not existing in our languages and we can't hear them. So we have to learn those new sounds. Hafiza, good to see you here. To understand true English. That's a really good real English. Sometimes the classroom English is something totally different than what happens in real life. Good point. And Natia said to be a good listener and a good communicator. Yeah, I know if we're just talking to someone who all they want to do is talk and they don't want to listen, it's not a very interesting conversation. So good conversations are people who know how to do both. And Zinatmo wrote, students listen, they know how to pronounce correctly. Yeah, both of the skills are connected. The listening and the speaking are very connected. If you can hear it well, then hopefully you'll be able to replicate it and say it well. All right. And yes, I agree, Mavluda. People have different styles for how they express themselves. So developing our pronunciation, it's definitely a lifelong skill. All right. So here are some other ideas, and then I'll get into the activities. For the main thing I think people could walk away with today is thinking, in a communicative class, what's happening? It's communication. And if the communication is only one way, where the teacher is doing a lot of the speaking, you may assume that that is a source of listening for the students. And it can be, but listening can look like many different things. It doesn't just mean the teacher is talking in English all the time to the students. So hopefully we're going to see some other examples, but I'll just aim in saying one point here. Having a purpose is really important. When possible, you're not always going to make students interested in your topic, but when possible, if they can be interested, it's better. I'd say listening for a purpose. When you go to order food in a restaurant, it's a listening skill. So that's a reason, you have a purpose. So creating a real reason for why people need to listen is important. Another point from what I was researching online, when people talk to you for, let's say, 10 minutes, you may only listen or hear about 3 or 4 minutes of the information. So a lot of the time, our brain is not listening unless it needs a purpose or something to do with what we're listening to. That's why when we're able to bring authentic examples, real life examples is better. And someone said about learning new vocabulary. Yes, I would say if someone just presents, like, for instance, I'm trying to learn how to say boil because I want boiled eggs in the morning here in Uzbekistan. And if I just hear the word, I don't know it. But if someone tells me the word before and I try to repeat it a couple times and make a sentence, then it's a pre-teaching example. So anytime we can pre-teach the words we want our students to use, the better. And different students have different amounts of knowledge around different topics. And let's see, also having time for focus and for activities to know what to do at all times. So listening is not just sitting and listening, but having something to do with what you're listening, such as writing or repeating or whatever the skill is you want to work on, gives more of a purpose. And that's where collaboration comes in. Oops. So with that, I'm gonna share some of the ideas from an article from a colleague who inspires me a lot. His name is Kevin McCowie. He actually is a Relo, and he wrote an article. So I'm just gonna share it for Forum, and it's for American English. And basically he talked about the main things that you would need to think about when making a listening activity for your classes. So I kind of read through it, studied some of it, and I tried to see the points that I could present to everyone. So I think it's important to just share with everyone that I'm going to be sharing some of the ideas that he said and that he wrote about. So the first one that he said, just because teachers speaking in English basically doesn't mean that it's a listening activity. So it's just something to keep in mind. More of our students have good English when they are listening for the foreign person. Yes, Mehdi, the more opportunities they can hear, the more they can replicate. So I'm just going to read some of these examples, and it's hard to see everyone. It's hard to hear everyone, but just as I'm reading some of these examples out, I want us to think around how much listening is happening. How could we see listening happening in the classroom? How could we hear? How could we, use our senses to know that it's actually happening? So I'll read an example. And if you want to put your finger up for 1, it means yes, 2, sort of, and 3, no. There's different amounts of listening that can happen. We may have a listening activity, but it may not be 100% a lot of listening. It may just be somewhat. So I'll just read a couple of them. Over here, number 2, to start with, the teacher describes the scene, right? Park, trees, people, benches, and students are drawing the scene as the teacher describes it. So what do you think? Is it a lot of listening? Is it a little bit, sort of, too? Or do you think, no, it's not really an example? It's just an idea to start with. I'm just starting with 2. Seems like there's some listening, right? Students need to listen, and they also have a purpose. They need to do something. Let's see, people are writing in the chat box. But just some ideas. It's a little bit. Yes. Remember, the students are doing some work in terms of listening, a lot of it, but the teacher is much more the source of the information. Okay. So there's different ideas. People are in general writing, sort of. Okay. Let's go to another one. Students are in pairs. They're doing a vocabulary matching activity on a handout. The vocabulary is coming from an audio text, and they just listened to it. And I'm going to add, they just listened to it once. How is that? Is that a listening activity? Yes, maybe, sort of, or no. If they just listened to it one time. Okay, so people are saying, yeah, they listened to it. I would add, sometimes if one student gets the answer, but a lot of others didn't, it could be helpful to replay it. So it's kind of like a yes, it's more on the lines of a sort of, but they are listening. It's 100% the listening skill, and they are producing something. And it's nice that they have to work together. So it could be like a yes. So I'll just read one more. The teacher tells the class about something that happened on his or her way to school that morning. It is listening. Now, do you think it's a yes? Are the students really producing something, or are they just sitting there listening? Or sort of, or no? I mean, there is listening involved, but does it involve the students doing something? Or is it just them kind of relaxing? There's some ideas. Some are saying no. Depends on the knowledge of the vocabulary used. Okay. So we're getting a sense that a lot of times there's a lot of different types of listening that happen in the classroom. And I'm not going to read through all of them, but one thing I want us to walk away with is really thinking how much listening is happening, how is it happening and what's the purpose? Because I think that the point is that we want to make the purpose really clear for the students, and we need them to produce something with the listening that they're doing. So Kevin talks about 5 main ways or tips you can use to increase listening practice. So we're going to just jump into them. First one is what students are doing during. Second is what they can, how you can see what they've understood through certain movements or through certain activities. Third point is how to keep our activities and our listening activities short. A lot of times I've heard some classes, they may have a 5 or 10-minute video. I think we can all admit we don't watch videos for 5 or 10 minutes when we're relaxing. We usually listen to it for a minute, 2 minutes. If it's really interesting, we may go beyond that. But keeping in mind attention spans of our young people is small. We should keep it short. The fourth point is playing it again when you have technology. And if you don't, you could be the source of technology, you speaking, you having audios, or your students having audios, or finding them online. And the fifth point is change it up. So, Fernando wrote something. Let's see, when having a listening activity in class, it's good to play the segment at least twice. I completely agree with you. I know that if one person gets it quickly, and actually Kevin wrote about this in his article, that he had to answer some questions for listening to a song and then writing in all the words for the song, and there was 7 questions and he got 5 of them, and the 2 he didn't, the teacher asked only because it was played once. So playing things a number of times gives more input for students. I would also say being aware of the speed. A lot of times people play really fast videos on YouTube, and you can actually adjust the speed so that it's more understandable. Thank you, Fernando. Not too long, not too short, to not overwhelm students. So Kevin's first point was too many activities when we do them with listening are not actually listening. They may look like listening, but the amount of time that listening is part of the skill that's being tested may be short. So if you want to build them, like Fernando just said, not having too many long audios and repeating it a number of times is helpful. Just going to share an activity. If you wanted to do it, you could. But the first one is you could do a picture dictation for any topic that you're teaching. This is one of the see it skills, or actually do it, where a teacher speaks and reads a text. And then as they read it, so if we imagine, let's say you had a piece of paper in front of you, even if it's an imaginary sheet of paper, we're going to draw a monster. We just learned the word lopsided, right? So draw a big lopsided circle and draw it near the top of your paper. So this is my paper. I'm drawing it on top. It's lopsided. Okay, give your monster 4 big eyes. So I have my 4 eyes, and give your monster 2 large ears. So we're imagining, we're just drawing them, and what you would do in a picture dictation is you speak and students just write it. And let's give our monster very long hair. So you would say all these directions and repeat it a number of times. And that would be an example of a picture dictation. A little less loud here. So you can do picture dictation with any topic that's related to what you're teaching. And what's nice about it is it can be what you create. So let's say you're teaching about clothing, or you're teaching about whatever topic it is. You can have students draw these things as you say them. And here there's another example to the right of the text that a teacher could read and the picture that students would draw. So it's just showing students paying attention over a long period of time, and that is what it is. So the next activity, it could be a sound clip. I actually just discovered it today. Oh, Fernando, saying one nice way to improve listening is to show students how to make listening a part of their daily life. Make it a daily habit, something that they will do naturally at home in their free time. Thank you, Fernando. Yeah, listening to movies, music, whatever it is, shows, and giving them that opportunity to give them more input. Thank you. I love your ideas. This is another one where you could have any short text or any short video, and it could be related somehow to your topic, and you could play it, and it's a dictation activity. Students would listen 2 times. So I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to see anyone who can write in the chat box what they heard that was said. Okay, so let's see.
Go ahead. Make my day.
All right, so that was what it was. Following the rules that Fernando and some other teachers said, we're going to play it
Go
twice.
ahead. Make my day.
Last time.
Go ahead. Make my day.
All right, what did Clint Eastwood say? Thank you. Go ahead. Make my day. So you could use it in context, but basically it's expressing to someone that you want them to do something. Basically, if I say to someone, it's like there may be a problem and make my day could make it better, but there's a little bit of satire, I think, in that, but that's what it is. Great. Fernando's talking about TV series. They're really great to improve listening because they usually have a continuation. Yeah, there's like different moments in the TV series. And they last for a while and you have a chance to listen to true accents, right? Different accents. There's not just one correct English accent. There's different types. And he asked the students to watch an episode with subtitles in English and sometimes without. And it's really nice because they can gradually get rid of the subtitles and eventually move away the subtitles, which is a scaffold. And it's a nice way to have them create a daily habit of listening at home. Thank you, Fernando. Really nice idea. So I'm going to share an activity that when I was doing a TESOL training, I have shared it with a lot of teachers. It's called a dictogloss. Basically, it's a listening activity that integrates numerous skills. So how it works is a teacher basically would read a text, as we said before, multiple times, and you could also record it and play it. And as students are listening, they would take notes. And then the third part of it is in groups of 3 or pairs or groups of 4, they would each take turns to try to re-say with their own words whatever was the text. And usually they wouldn't see it, they would only hear it. And you could do it with any topic, even in your textbooks. But the idea, once again, is it's not just the teacher talking all the time, but it creates space and time for students to speak. So we're going to try it right now. And then we're going to get one volunteer. We'll put people in breakout rooms for about 3 minutes, since we have about 30 people here. And each person will have about 30 seconds to try to put this phrase that I'm about to read to you. And it's all about the healing power of garlic, chesnok. And you're going to have about 2 or 3 minutes in your group to try to put in your own words what it is. So I'm going to read it. I'm not going to show it to you. And I'm going to ask everyone right now, and I'm only going to do it once, to take notes about garlic. So I hope you all have your pen or your paper or somewhere, your phone, wherever you want to write. We're going to learn about garlic a little bit, and then you'll have a little bit of time. Is that okay, Nasiba, to do a breakout room, or should I keep going forward, or can I do that?
Yes, we can do just a break because we are going live on Facebook.
Very good. So is everyone ready? Garlic. You all have your pens out or somewhere to write? I'll read it twice. So garlic, the great healer. All through history, people have used garlic for healing. People use it in India and China, and they've used it for over 5,000 years. Because it is natural medicine, it is a safe antibiotic. During World War I, for example, doctors used garlic juice because it helped them stop infection. One more time, garlic, the great healer. All through history, people have used garlic for healing. People used it in India and China over 5,000 years ago. Because it is natural medicine, it is a safe antibiotic. During World War I, For example, doctors use garlic juice because it helps stop infection. So we have 25 people in here. I'm going to put you into rooms of about. You can go, it's fine. Thank you. Good to see you, Pinar. Peace. Rooms of about 3 people, because I don't think everyone will be speaking. Everyone will have 30 seconds to say whatever they heard about garlic. And then you'll have another 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And after about 2 minutes, we'll come home. And you can also add any background information you may know about garlic from Myanmar, from Tajikistan, from Uzbekistan. I see Safar. From wherever you're from, you can also add other information, but we're going to see what you heard. So you may go in your breakout rooms. We'll just be there for a couple of minutes. And I think, Nasiba, maybe you could stay here and maybe Kunora or EWB, Soro, and we can just share out loud. And we'll see if it works, if there's enough people to join. And those who don't, it's also fine. All right. So what do you hear about garlic? Nasiba, go for it. Start us off.
So yeah, it has medicinal properties and it can be used for food, like, so it helps to improve the immune system. And hello?
Yes.
Can
continue.
you hear me? Yes. Yeah, and I would add one more thing, like, so in Tajikistan, it is also used for eliminating the bad spirits. So sometimes in the homes, you can find like that people are keeping a bunch of garlic. They believe that this will eliminate bad spirits from the house.
Super interesting.
Yeah, maybe some superstition, but yeah, in some cases, yeah, we can meet that people keep like them in some corner of the room or like near the gates. So sometimes it happens.
I could be wrong on the fact, but I think during the Black Plague, like there was a plague in Europe, and I think that they also used to take garlic for protection when they had a lot of illnesses. All right, nice. Thank you, Nasiba. I don't know if anyone else who's in our group wants to share what they heard and also what they may have that's special about what they know about garlic. I'll just say, I think it's too much garlic. My dad actually mixes garlic with water every day and drinks it, which I think is a little extreme, but he says it's supposed to be really healthy for your immune system, which is what was in the text. And it's interesting that I think it said it was in China and India. When I think about it, Tajikistan's kind of in between China and India, so it's part of the same world, but it came from the east.
And by the way, I also do some kind of solution using the garlic. So, and my mom uses it just, to keep her immune system always functioning properly. So it helps. Yeah, in many cases, like even during the pandemic, my mom kept, the solution and kept using it every day. So yeah, it helped her. Like, and it's also called the use solution. So it helps to rejuvenate, the skin, and also just rejuvenate, like, your body. So, and it has like lots of benefits for the health. And the garlic is also part of
garlic now that I'm learning about this. Thank you, Nasiba. It sounds like different. Both my mom and I mean my dad and your mom have a sense of something valuable about it. So I think it's good natural ways of healing. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can say, I mean, just I can share the recipe if anybody wants to have this recipe.
Share it in the chat box. I'm sure people will be interested.
Oh,
I love it. think people are coming back. All right. Well, I just wanted to share a flavor of Dictogloss, but I bet you had really interesting conversations, and it's an interesting topic. Whatever you choose, I think it could get people excited and interested. So there's a different way to do listening in class, and I'm going to just share it right now. It's called seeing answers. And the way it basically works is you would say statements, and kind of like I was trying to do before with the 1 and the 2 and the 3. If you think it's a true statement, you would stand up, right? If you think it's not a true statement, you would stay seated. And if you think it's sometimes true, you would wave your hands. So for those who we can't see, I'm going to just do one related to garlic. Garlic originally came from Mexico and China. Okay, everyone seems to be seated, so good. Garlic originally came from 5,000 years ago. It was used medicinally in China and India. If it's true, you would stand up. So that's the idea. We'll do some other ones. So a question. Is today Tuesday? If you think it's true, you're going to stand up. If it's no, you stay seated. I think today is not Tuesday, so we're staying seated. Is today Thursday? Oh, pop up, stand up. So that's basically how it works. We move our bodies to show our answers. Right now, am I wearing glasses? No. So if the answer is no, whoop, you stand up. Okay, so the next one. Do you like rainy weather? This is more of a choice. The answer could be yes, you stand up, or no, stay seated. Or sometimes wave your hands. Be nice to see what other people answer. So people are writing yes and no. They're writing in the chat box, answering. Good. All right, good. I'm probably a no, stay seated. Sometimes if it's really hot. Okay, good. Another one. Is Shanghai the capital of China? If you answer is yes, stand up. The answer is no, stand seated. Okay. So that's it for examples. And you can also do it for statements that are true. So for instance, I'm going to say a sentence, and if it's a correct sentence, you will stand up and say yes. If it's an incorrect sentence, you will stay seated. And if you think it works, sometimes you can wave your hand. So I is going to the movies. If it's true, you stand up. If it's not true, you stay seated. I am going to the movies. So you stand up, right? I am. All right. And it can also be any sort of, sometimes I am going, sometimes I'm okay. So no, very good. So just showing your answers with your body is another way of seeing what people know. And there you can ask a series of questions. So these are just personal questions to see what people know or don't know from their own experiences. So I think everyone here has had coffee. Who has had coffee before? If it's a yes, you'd stand. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but you get a sense that you would read sentences. And if it was teacher-centered, you'd keep reading them. But if it was student-centered, you'd actually choose students and ask them to read it. And people would show their answers physically. So we said it before, but you could play activities or audios again and again. And the final one here is related, just changing it up. The more different things that we hear, like Fernando was saying before, the more interested we are. Even our brains usually don't stay on one topic very long, or maybe that's just my brain. It changes a lot. So when we're able to change different texts, different audios, it keeps people's attention a little better. And it's great to use your own voice. There's also a lot of online sources, audios, and there's just so many things online. And there's American English, there's ETS everywhere, there's BBC Learning English, there's lots of resources. I think the question is, do we use them with purpose and intentionally? And I once again want to just thank Kevin for this very interesting article. And I also found it really interesting. I think we all have to be proud of the mentors or people who we look up to who have really good ideas. So I want to thank him for writing about this. So I'll just share one thing and then we'll move forward. I tried to compile the article that Kevin wrote here. I tried to write the whole PowerPoint. And there's a lot more examples for younger learners. There's a much more detailed examples from a presentation that Kevin made. And there's a series for music. There's also just other examples. So more or less, I wanted to share that. Another thing, I don't know how many teachers feel comfortable with this based on the age of your students. I know I get really motivated when I talk to someone else in a language I'm trying to learn. So there's some resources here about language exchanges, right? My language exchange, you could have your students, if you feel safe with that based on their age, to connect with other students abroad. If not, you don't do that. But this is more or less it. This is what I wanted to share with everyone. So I have a channel with some activities. You as a teacher can sign up your students to do a more structured virtual exchanges. There's so many online. I think the one thing to remember is the bigger groups are, the less likely lots of people get chances to speak. But it's just another idea of speaking and listening with a purpose. And for those who are interested, I would love for you to try to use one of these or another listening activity and share it with us later. In terms of share with us, maybe how you use one. British Council, thank you, Brit. He's saying 5 essential listening skills for English learners. Great, I'm gonna add it. Thank you, Fernando. Let's add it right now. So I'll add those in there. And I think that's about it, honestly. I just shared a little bit of what I do know, and I'm gonna be sharing the links that Fernando is graciously giving to us here. I can also make this so that other people can post links if we want to do that, but the idea is that the more resources we have, the better. But what's also really important is using our resources, English Listening Lesson Library online. Love it, Fernando. You are sharing and resource goldmine. I just think it's important, whatever we use, we have a limited purpose in terms of what we want to do with it, so that it's not just sit there and listen, but there's a purpose in it. And the last point, I didn't share it, but I think this is really important in listening, is graphic organizers. I just did a workshop today. Whatever it is that you're having students do with listening, it's important that they capture their ideas on paper, because it's sort of like your proof. You know, when you go to buy something at the store, you have to give your money. That's your currency. Your students' currency is their homework. So this could be an example of paperwork that you could have students do, and they could go around, for instance, and listen to a video about for instance, Nasiba's example. Can you explain to us, Nasiba, and we're all going to write it down. How do I make healing garlic potion? You know, how does your mom make it? And we're going to maybe write them down. Can you tell us the steps, please?
Yeah, yes, sure. Like you need to take like 300 grams of garlic and then peel it, clean it, rinse it, and then chop it into small, tiny pieces. And then you add 1 liter of, so let's say vodka, yes. So, or like, spirits, and then you mix and you leave it in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks, and make sure that you just, you shake it every day, just to make sure that the garlic is not on the bottom and the spirits is not like, on the top of the bottle. And you shake it thoroughly every day. And again, you put it in the fridge. So the whole duration of keep it in the fridge 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, you just kind of separate the garlic and the solution you receive, the portion that you receive, it has really great medicinal properties. So it will help you to to cure some chronic diseases, and also it will help to boost your immune system. It will help you to stay younger, and also yes, it will help you, like, to have a healthy skin, and also just so you will not you will feel that your immune system has greatly improved. And also just it cleans your blood cells, and your blood vessels will be more elastic if you keep it like for 2-3 months. Keep this potion, so kind of magic potion made of garlic.
It's so interesting to see, but as you're explaining, what I'm thinking about as a sort of follow-up for an activity for a group of 20 or 15 students is you could assign different natural healing traditions, garlic, parsley, whatever it is, salt, and you could ask students to explain with steps, how do I make this? And then they'd have to listen to each other and write it down and kind of keep talking to each other and mingling. But I appreciate what you shared. Thank you. It's magical garlic. What he was saying. Kunuro saying about the challenge. Wait, so I guess we're just go to questions now. All right.
So great. Right now let's open the floor to question and answers. So like, we really enjoyed the presentation, and we have so many people watching us on Zoom and also on Facebook. So please, you can put your questions in the chat box. So Armen, you can see those questions, and you can respond to them. Thank you very much.
Should I read it out loud, or do you want to, Gulnora?
Gulnora can do that.
Armen, actually, you can read it yourself if you feel comfortable with that. Usually our speakers do that too. So,
all right. So I'll just go for it. The first question is from Gulnora, or maybe from someone else. I don't know who wrote it, but how challenging it is to teach listening to young learners versus older ones. I mean, I think it's a lot harder. The attention span of children is harder, but I also think the material should be engaged. Sometimes I've seen a class of, maybe 8-year-olds listening for 10 minutes to a YouTube video. And it's remember, just hearing English is not a listening activity. Just having a teacher talk to students in English is not a listening activity. I believe, and it's also what Kevin wrote and a lot of other people believe, that listening activity involves a purpose and involves students doing something with what they learned. So for instance, if we wanted to review fruits with students, you could, describe fruits in different parts of the paper and students draw them. So it's a listening, but it's showing there's a product at the end. So I think that if we make things, and Fernando said it and others said in the chat box, really long and complicated, it's too much language for people based on their level. So Fernando had a really interesting question. Why do so many students feel that listening is one of the most difficult skills to master? Well, I mentioned it in the beginning. It's just my view. I mean, for instance, now I'm trying to learn some Russian, and there's just certain sounds that it's like a new muscle in my mouth. I'm not able to say them. And it's the same for hearing them. I'm not able to hear them. I know that when we're children, we have the ability to learn and say all sounds that are possible that humans can make. And as we get older, those sounds become harder to say and to differentiate. So I think part of that is just, it's called fossilization, and kind of like our ability to hear things changes. But I'd say another reason it's hard is just the amount of words, the speed of it, the amount of unknown. I know every time that I hear people talk to me, and it's in Russian or maybe Uzbek or any language I'm trying to learn, And as soon as I don't understand 2 words, it's like something in my brain shuts off and it says, I don't understand. This is too difficult. I need English. So I think that our students, when we're talking about materials that we present to them, if you're presenting a sentence and the sentence has 10 words, and out of the sentence, they only know one of the words, how will a student feel? They're not going to feel very confident. So maybe reviewing some of those words, showing them, I don't know if it's translations or whatever it is, some pre-teaching would kind of build people's confidence. And I think that, you can't ask someone to eat a whole sandwich at one time. You can only take one bite. So when you're giving language for students to practice with, I think it's important that we just give them just enough and also allow multiple people to answer, not just one person, and move forward. So I hope that answers your question, Fernando. Oh, wonderful. Happy that it did. Happy you're here, Saeed. Nasib asked an interesting question about assessing students' listening skills. I mean, you could have it where they're making a product. Today I did a workshop and it was just teachers were talking to each other and asking questions to each other. And the questions were based on lists of words. And I was kind of going around and seeing what they wrote down. I think you're right. Like, how can I assess what you listen to? How could I assess what you've understood? I need you to create something with it. So we try to do a little bit assessing with the movement, but I mean, there's different ways based on the activity, but I would just say a listening activity doesn't stop with people listening. They should do something with what they've listened to and produce it, say it, and it becomes another skill. It's speaking, but they have to show they're listening. So ask yourself, how are they showing it? How are they doing it? Otherwise, people listen to things all the time, but no one does what they listen to. Right? We know that in our lives, people know what's right, but we still do the wrong thing sometimes. So we have to have them produce something with what they've learned. Mehdi said, can you say, please, what is the most important skill? I said, listening. What do you think? Personally, Mehdi, I don't think you can survive in life just with listening. I think you'll become a really good listener, but in real life, you need to integrate all of those things, listening and speaking. And someone before said it, that they influence each other. Our ability to listen better helps us for our ability to speak better. So I personally, I don't think one skill is more important than another. The Dictogloss activity is really nice for getting teachers to have students use multiple skills, but also it's important to just isolate one skill. Like, now I'm doing listening. I'm going to do a picture dictation. They're going to draw certain vocabulary that I've taught them. And while they're drawing, I'm assessing what they've learned. Destago, why listeners guess it's more difficult to listen to native speakers. For me, and I'm sure others have different ideas, I think speed is really hard. I think the way words are chunked together also makes it really hard to hear native speakers. I think accents, which in Uzbek it's Shiva. I think there's different reasons, but a lot of it is we're used to a certain type of accent. And as soon as someone speaks a different type, it becomes harder. So I hope that answers that. And Gunuro said, do you use listening materials effectively for different English dialects? I think it's very important to use different English dialects. I think that there's this false sense that there's only one right English, and it's it's just not true. So the more different dialects we get from world Englishes, the better. Be American English, BE, your own British Council, whatever the sources, the more sources, the better. And the more real life, the better. Nasiba wrote, what would you recommend for teaching listening in a multi-level class? Well, I'm going to share exactly what was recommended in the article. Kevin wrote about having different corners of the room for different activities. So what you could do is have, 2, maybe 3 different listening activities that are being done for 3 different levels. And for instance, with that previous graphic organizer that I showed that related to steps, maybe the steps have more complicated language for one example, but easier language for the other. So they're all writing down the steps, first this, second this, third this, but the difference is how complicated and how heavy the language is. So that's just an idea of like different corners. I'm sure that others have other really good ideas. There's a hand there. Do you want to
Yeah,
unmute yourself?
we have Natya. We have Natya. She has, she joined from Georgia, and she's a regular webinar follower of English Without Borders. So, Natya, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for the session. I really learned lots of strategies, but still I have a question. So are there any ways to cope with students who seem to still comprehend very little after listening several times?
So would you say that it's a very big text or a little text? I'm just curious about what level it is, because I think
Well,
that
depending, is it primary or upper intermediate? So both primary for primary and for higher levels, both of them.
yeah. I mean, I think comprehensible means that it's not too many new words. I think if there's too many new things, it's too hard. So I don't have one answer for your context, but I know that pre-teaching vocabulary is really important. Do you ever pre-teach what you're having students listen for? I'm just curious.
Sure, always.
So that's one idea. I know I've done that a lot in my classes, showing examples, images, and be showing people how to use it. But I also think like what kinds of questions you're asking. So when you ask students to do something, are you asking them to say the main idea? Are you asking them to write down new words? What are you usually saying they need to do with the listening? I just want to understand. After they listen, what do they do? That's you're saying is difficult.
So before listening, I give them task. Of course, they have some questions. They have to listen for some details or just general idea.
Right. So you show them the questions and they're still having trouble.
Yes, they still have some trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think reviewing the questions in advance is important. It's possible they don't know the words in the question. It's just one idea. I know using people's fingers while they're reading is important. And then maybe highlighting a keyword and saying this word is important, like animals. Let's say it's the list of, I don't know, the types of animals that live in the Sahara, and that's in the text. So maybe with the question, you're going to say, now, when you're looking, I want you to be aware of this word animals. There's an answer about what the types of animals are. I don't know which text you're talking about, Natia, but I think that just giving people some warning of what they're listening for related to purpose. And also, like Nasiba was saying, like when we have different levels, we often just teach maybe to the lower, or we just teach to the higher. So I would say giving options in terms of how many answers. So maybe a higher level student can answer 5 questions, while a lower level student can only answer 2 or 3. And giving them the space to maybe not get every answer, but this is just my view. I mean, it may not be the right one, but different people have different levels of ability to produce what they can understand. And you can't force them just by saying, here's the right answer. Like they need to come to it themselves. So I hope that helps as a suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
What you're expecting from people should meet somewhat near to what they're able to produce. Yeah. Farazona asks, what advice can you give to teachers who teach in secondary schools where students are not interested in English? I know when I taught French in Brooklyn, my students were not interested, and so no application to using it. And it was really hard. I think I tried to give them examples. I tried to look at what topics were interested in them. I tried to have them produce things. So we made like a sort of newspaper about where the students were from in Brooklyn, and they wrote about where they lived, what is special about New York City. So it's just an idea. I think that it's hard. We can't force people to like English. We can't force them to like us. We can't force them to listen to us. I mean, we all know that. We have relatives, we have people, we have friends Some of them talk a lot, some talk very little. We can't listen to everyone. So it's hard to force people to learn and to listen, but I think you can encourage them to be interested in your subject area by showing them examples that are real. Because if something's real, they can see some level of application. So if someone's really into sports, maybe they're reading about sports, or if someone's really about music, maybe they're learning about the life of some famous musicians. So, and also you have your set curriculum, so you can't just choose whatever you want to teach. But I would just say, whenever it's possible, ask yourself how what you're teaching can be connected somehow to students' interests and lives. Because if it's not, the likelihood of them being interested is much lower, because they don't see any personal connection. And, you know, kids are in their world. Mavluda asks, is there any particular listening strategy that you use very often while learning Russian that helps you learn that language better? I like to listen to new words, but for me, using them is really important. Использовать, which I believe means use in Russian. So I had to use that one word like 40 or 50 times with the person I was studying with, and hear it over and over, hear it in questions, hear it in statements. And then once I heard it so many different times in so many different formats, that word became mine. And I think that we forget that. So when Natia was saying, oh, I did the reading task, you know, I played the audio, they still didn't get it. They're gonna need a lot. Like, and there's some things that I just feel like I feel like a rock. It just doesn't go in my head. And what, you know, goes into my head will not go into your head in the same way. But for me, repeated use in real life situations, where I'm here right now, there's a really good teacher of Uzbek and Russian and English. He always ends his classes with students writing examples. I just think that the more personally related it is to them, the more likely they're able to remember it. If it's just something from some book, it doesn't have a connection. What could be a post activity after listening? I think for me, it's really interesting to have students talk to each other about what they heard. And maybe you could give people the words, for instance, Nadia, and the words are out of order. And what their job is to do is to create a sentence with those words that are out of order, missing some, you know, maybe conjunctions or whatever it is, missing articles, and they need to try to create a sentence based on what they heard and based on the supports of those words. Because I think you're talking about a context where there's just one question and there's one answer. Maybe they need help with the answer. There's some of the words there, but they're out of order and they need to put it in order, which is a lower level thing for students to do than just what's the answer. Fernando, is there any way to personalize listening activities? I mean, you just give an activity. It's not hard. I think it's not personal. I think the only way to make it personal, like I remember I was teaching a class and my students were writing and learning about young people who have done important things for their community. To me, that felt very personalized because it was about people who looked like my students. My students are from around the world. I work with students who immigrated to New York, and they felt that it was personally of interest. So that's my answer. Like, students should see themselves in what they're learning. But begin. It's better to listen to non-native speakers English or native, both. In real life, you get both, right? What's better, pizza or hamburger or salad? Everyone's good on different day. But yes, most of your students here are non-native speakers, but I do think it's important to show them native, because then when they deal with a native person, they're not frozen. I had some people come to the class and they're just like, he's American. And like they're embarrassed to speak because, I mean, for whatever reason. But I think that it's important to give people more exposure. I'm happy that you liked it, Fernando. Thank you for your participation. Take care. Bye, Fernando. And okay, thank you, Zabinoza, for introducing me to EWB. And I think that's our time. So I can't think of much more to say other than taking a group photo. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I have my resources. I'll share all my links if anyone wants them.
Yes.
Just
So By the way, yeah, we would request to share your presentation as well as the sources. So we'll be posting them on our website for easy access of teachers. So anybody like who will watch your presentation, I mean your webinar later on, they would definitely will be willing to download and use your materials further on.
Great. Can I give one home task, work task for anyone who wants to do it, is motivated?
Okay.
It's totally not pressured, but please share an example of you doing one listening activity with your class. If you want to do it, you can. If you don't want to do it, you don't. It's completely fine. But I'm just sharing it with you with this beautiful peacock. Share an example of you doing a listening activity. And if you're like, I don't know where to find this, it's just in my links here. Just come up and it's somewhere here. But it's basically there. Post your video from your class doing a listening activity by Friday, May 21st. So today is May 12th. You got like 10 days, whatever it is, 11 days. It'd be great to see how different teachers try to use one simple activity from the ones that we've learned today. And if not, don't make a video. If you want to, do it. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, huge thank you, dear Armen, for such wonderful session. So we have so many teachers joining this webinar from different parts of the world, and it is really exciting to see that so many teachers again are ready to share and also to learn something new and also to share the resources as well as to participate in this webinar. So on behalf of English Without Borders, I'm extending my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your active participation and for brilliant presentation. So everybody felt that we are gaining something new by sharing and also by exchanging our knowledge. So thank you very much. Thank you for linking English Without Borders with Mr. Armen Kassabian. So we do hope that this is the first step for our future collaboration, and we'll be looking forward to seeing more and more webinars with you. Thank you very much, Mr. Armen Kassabian. And dear audience, please stay tuned on English Without Borders. We'll be sharing the materials of today's webinar very soon. Have a great evening, everybody. And for all those who are joining from different parts of the world, have a great day. Take care and see you very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Nasiba. Congratulations.